For sure, the craziest food I had was menudo, which is, I think it's like cow stomach. It's a Mexican food. I was serving in the DeSoto ward boundaries, and which covers South Oak Cliff, which is the hood. And I remember going there with a member. It was me, my companion, and a member. We were looking up a referral. And like someone had called Salt Lake and had asked for like a Book of Mormon or something. So we were going to drop it off and then, see if we could teach a lesson kind of thing. But it ended up being in this apartment complex that was really run down. Most of it was abandoned. I'd say less than half the apartment complex was occupied. And quite frankly, there's probably a lot of drug dealing and all sorts of illegal activity that probably takes place there. But we were there in the middle of the afternoon. It was the type of place like you probably don't go at night unless you have an appointment specifically lined up, because we were just sort of going there a little bit cold. Because this lady, although she had ordered a Book of Mormon, like she didn't know we were coming. Anyway, and the member that we were with, obviously I'm white. My companion at the time was white, and the member we were with was white. And this is a very black area of town. And we get out of the car, and these two guys are looking at us like, what are these three white boys doing here, And not only do they look at us, they just kind of look a little menacing, and they're like, "Are you all in the wrong neighborhood?" And I was like, "No, we're just gonna go drop off some scriptures to this lady over here." And like, "Oh, okay." It was just kind of like, it was a little interesting because I think to some extent people don't mess with you because you're a representative for Christ kind of thing, and they don't want to mess with preachers and pastors and what have you. But I do look back on it and think like, oh, I probably should have been a lot more careful, because like they were looking kind of menacing at us. And so yeah, that was an interesting experience where I realized, I think as a missionary it's easy to be naive about how dangerous a place can be. So definitely be careful, listen to the Spirit, and don't assume that, nobody's ever going to hurt you. I mean, you don't know for sure, so be careful. I think I just learned to like love people more, and to just not judge so quickly. I remember having struggles with one of my companions early on. It was like my first 6 months of the mission, and he was brand new, like kind of getting adjusted, and he was a little more chill on the rules and a little more chill just generally on things, and quite frankly, I was probably a little too uptight on things, and we just weren't getting along super well, and our zone leaders kind of knew there's a little bit of tension there, so they took us out where we went on splits or whatever, where I went with one of the zone leaders for the day, and he went with one of the other zone leaders. And my zone leader was kind of hounding me about my companionship. He was like, "So what's going on with you, another so-and-so? Like, what's the deal?" And I was like, "Well, we're doing okay." Like, I wasn't kind of opening up like maybe I should have. And he was pushing the issue of trust on me. He's like, "Well, do you guys trust each other? Do you trust him? Like, it's so important for you guys to trust each other." And I was kind of being a little bit snide, and I was getting annoyed that he kept bringing it up. And I was just like, "Well, tell me, how do you trust somebody that hasn't done anything to earn your trust?" And I was being kind of smart, because he kept pushing this, and he thought for a second and then responded, and he's just like, "You love him, Elder." And that was a really powerful moment for me, because the Spirit really hit me hard and made me realize I needed to repent and I needed to love more. And I really felt like that's what was lacking in our companionship, is not like, oh, well, he needs to change or he's not obedient enough. It was, I need to love him more. And so that was a very powerful experience for me. A really humbling experience I had on my mission was my companion and I had been teaching this one couple. The wife was a member, but had kind of fallen away from the church for a little bit. Was starting to come back to church, and her husband was investigating. So we're kind of teaching the lessons, and I'll never forget this one experience because I had been out for a good little bit. Like, I kind of knew what I was doing, or so I thought. And I was with this missionary that was pretty new. He'd only been out maybe 3-4 months, and while we were teaching this lesson, just out of the blue, just out of nowhere, my companion just looks at the brother that we're teaching and he says, "Brother so-and-so, will you be baptized?" And I was so caught off guard. Like, we hadn't talked about this. I was like, oh my goodness. And it was, quite frankly, it was socially awkward. And instead of waiting for that, because I think when you ask a question like that, will you be baptized? The rule of thumb is you shouldn't sit, be silent, let them answer. Don't cut in. But I broke that rule and I cut in and I was like, well, you don't have to give an answer right away, kind of thing. Like, I waited like maybe 3 or 4 seconds, but it was just so awkward. I was so caught off guard that I was like, well, you don't have to give an answer right away, brother so-and-so. But then come to find out later, my companion and I talked about it. He's like, I felt so prompted to do that. Like, the Spirit just, constrained me to say that. And so I, of course I felt really, really silly for interfering, right? And then it was interesting. We go back to that home later in the week, and the brother confessed to us. He's like, I knew for some reason before you guys came, I knew that you guys would ask me to be baptized, and I need to be baptized. And it was really powerful because it was like, I thought like, oh, I've been out for a while. I'm the senior companion. Like, I know what I'm doing. And, but listen to your junior companion because, the Spirit could be moving on them and you don't even know. So it was a great experience. Early 2010, I think it was a Texas record, snowed 12 inches in 24 hours. So, it was crazy. That was the most, it just wouldn't quit. It just kept snowing. So that was the most amount of snow I've ever seen outside of Utah for me, because I grew up in the South. So I would say it's budgeting. I forced myself to, I didn't do this for most of my mission, to be honest. I probably should have been a lot better, but about halfway through my mission, maybe a little further, at some point the second year, I decided I need to start keeping track of my expenses. And so I did. Every receipt, I would keep every receipt, and then I would write everything down, and balance it in my checkbook, sort of thing. And so it was kind of cool that I knew to the penny how much was in my account, just because I had been writing everything down. And so yeah, that was something I learned, was just basic, it's just real basic budgeting skills. If I were talking to my little brother just getting home from his mission or something, I would say, look, set a goal for, quite frankly, when you want to get married, and set goals for education, whatever educational pursuits that you have, or career pursuits, start setting those goals. And, you set goals all the time as a missionary, don't quit. Some of the most successful people I know are constantly setting goals. So figure out what those goals are, and even if you don't reach them, it's fine, but you're still better for trying. And maybe you need to readjust them here and there, but don't forget to set those goals, and that'll help you focus on what's important, I think.